All right, welcome to this segment of today's experience. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about expansion and where in our lives we can really explore, lean in the right places, in the healthy places, in the spaces that as females sometimes we shy away from because of fear and insecurity. So much of where we are in life, there's so many restrictions, and structure is good, definitely with the sense of interior design. When I talk about interior design, having those principles in place and those elements in place are key. But for a lot of us, we struggle sometimes to add, or we feel like we want to explore, and we're just not sure how to because of the amount of restriction, like saying, to pay the bills, we have to go to work. To fit in, we have to either dress a certain way or be a certain way or be around certain people, right? There's so many approaches, right? And for a lot of us, these are almost imaginary, as real as they feel. So many of these kind of dimensions, these boundaries are not even real. I wrote a song once, and I wrote the line, "I used these walls to build myself a castle." So the thing is, you want to be able to build something really beautiful, but the question is how, right? So we'll start with just a couple of different ideas and that can give you some concrete structure. So the first thing is you have to set expansive intentions, right? So notice what your relationship is with your time, your experiences. Where do you put limitations on? So, for example, something I did a while ago, which was I noticed I was always creating these time frames around how I would talk to people or who I would talk, how much time I would give myself. And then I started to notice that every conversation I had, there was something very specific I needed to say, and then I would time it, and that was it. In, out, goodbye. There wasn't any room for exploration, and there wasn't any room for anything organic to develop. And I think friendship, intimacy, and intimacy doesn't mean only with a partner, but it means with the people in your life that you value, is something that happens organically. So much of what we do is controlled, right? So even the way we want people to think about us, there's certain things we do to, portray that. So when we cultivate expansive interactions in that scenario, what I made a rule with myself. I said, moving forward, if somebody starts a conversation, I'm just going to allow it to go where it goes. And it doesn't matter where else I need to be. I'm not going anywhere. I'm just going to allow this experience to be what it is. And it was inspired by somebody that I worked with once. I was talking to her, and she came to pick something up for my house, and she looked at her watch, and she's like, I have a cake in the oven, but it is what it is. If it burns, it burns. In the sense that, not from an irresponsible perspective of allowing it to, her whole house to be on fire, but this kind of anxiety of, I got to get home to shut the oven, to this, to that, rather than trusting the organic evolution of where the conversation would go. And I remember it was like I was really young then, and it kind of fascinated me that she had such a relaxed approach, and it inspired me. It really inspired me to explore that. From an energy level, a lot of us have a natural time frame, right? Even saying, I need to put a load of laundry in, and saying, but you know what? I don't feel like I need to do it right now. Just energetically, I don't feel like that is something I can do right now. It's not a lazy approach. There's an expansive approach of, from an OCD perspective, you're like, these are the things that have to be done. And what happens if we open it up to the sensation, right? Because it's more of an expansive emotional sensation. So that really leads us into number 2, which is cultivating curiosity. So when a situation like that happens, like let's say you're in a space where you're like, I don't emotionally feel like I want to put a load in the laundry now. You could say, all right, let me explore this. Well, what would I like to do, right? And the answer might just be you want stillness, or to do something else. What, by not complying to that routine, what is it opening you up to? So the counter to that is really that for a lot of us, when we aren't doing something we should, we begin to feel guilty. So there's this kind of guilt that kicks in. And I had that yesterday. I created this magnificent project, and as I was doing the thing I love to do, this guilt of it's a waste of time, why are you even bothering, kind of started to kick in. And I'm like, no, I love this project. I'm going to do it, and I'm going to let myself have as much time as I need, including going to bed a little later than I normally do, which ended up me getting up later than I normally do, and that's okay. So just cultivating that curiosity, noticing where you're going to go. So when you're cultivating that curiosity, number 3 would be to visualize the limitless opportunities and possibilities. So there's this thing with a joke, right? If you're writing a joke, a real good joke has usually 3 punchlines. There's one, there's a second, and then the one that really makes people laugh is having that third unexpected curveball. When we're trying to explore this space and expansive, this expansive space, what you want to do is, by visualizing this limitlessness, right? You end up like, it's almost like that joke. Notice where you're gonna go, where your edge is, and then notice if you can push that even a little further. So if you were gonna go explore that thing you want to explore, and then push a little bit more, just again, like the joke, push, see where that goes, see where it goes. And again, obviously in a safe environment. The best place to do this is also in a meditation when you're still. So rather than going straight into something, just visualize it first. What you're going to discover is discomfort. That's the first thing that's going to discourage you from continuing, is discomfort. So I encourage you, when that discomfort shows up, to just allow it to be there, embrace it, have patience with it, and notice that it's just part of the process in seeking the new experiences. So anything that you're going to feel beyond that discomfort is going to be a new experience. So for us to be able to even find that newness or explore the happiness in our lives that we're looking for, we have to realize that it's beyond those gates. And I've said this once before, that fear is the price of admission. For a lot of us, there's a lot of fear there. Where we get to dissolve the fear is with education. The more we know about something, the less afraid we are. So as children, we have a lot of fears around areas we don't know things about. The more we know, the less fear there is. So fear is the price of admission. When that fear shows up, allow it to be this, just communicate the discomfort and be okay with it, and let it, sit with yourself there, and then push past it with that fear, just embracing that fear. And then with that, you're always going to have this thing where you're going to want to retract, come back. Because we always come back to something we're familiar to. So just remind yourself that your potential is limitless. I had a vision for my life. People said I bit off more than I could chew. I didn't. So many things that I wanted, loved, and desired have been fulfilled. So many. So in life, we don't get everything, but we get a lot. We really, really do get a lot. So go back to those places when you're unsure and that discomfort shows up. Go back to the places where you see you managed to achieve the things you wanted to, and have gratitude for that growth. Use that as your cornerstone for the next piece. And then once you've kind of cultivated that from an emotional and a meditative perspective, take action. Take inspiring action. Always put in a prayer, to the divine. We have a creator. Connect with him. Trust. Ask him for support. And listen to your intuition, because your intuition will always be accurate. For so many of us, the discomfort that we experience in our life has to do with the fear around the steps we don't want to take to free ourselves. And the freeing is the emotional freedom, to be able to take these deep breaths. Because when we're not doing things we love, our oxygen is restricted in our chest. There isn't enough room. But when we're leaning into these spaces that we love, even if we feel like we're reaching too far, just say, what happens if just this time I expand my lungs and I allow this in? What would happen? And more often than not, you will discover that everything you want is available to you. You just have to make the room for it. Emotionally, spiritually, physically, right? We have to make space for it if we find that important and if we value that. So thank you so much for joining me in this experience today. I'm so glad that I was able to give it to you. Have a beautiful, beautiful night.